everyone. My name is Yvonne McEachron. I'm an interior designer based in Saratoga Springs, New York. Around 6 years ago, a friend of mine introduced me to the Hyde, and I was just in awe. It's such a gem we have here in upstate New York. Over the past 5 years, I've worked with the Hyde in donating my creative services for different events and benefits the museum has housed. I'm excited to be moderating tonight's virtual studio chat for our Paths Less Traveled series in support of this year's high school juried show. The show, featuring 100 outstanding works from students throughout the region, is currently live at the Hyde Collection until May 31st, and we really encourage you to come out and visit. For a complete overview of exhibitions, please visit hydecollection.org. So a few housekeeping notes before we begin. All audience members are on mute, but we encourage you to ask questions to our panelists throughout the next 50 minutes. We will have an engaging Q&A session before we close at 7:30. And you can also find more information in the chat about our sponsors and our current exhibitions. Tonight's program is made possible by a number of incredible sponsors, including our signature sponsor, Glens Falls National Bank, and a range of supporting sponsors as shown in your chat box. We would also like to thank David Housen and the Skidmore College Arts Administration Program for sponsoring our live services, as well as the Hyde Collection Board of Trustees and Innovators Council for the resources they've contributed to make this a success. Tonight's discussion features 3 panelists who have generously offered to open up about their journeys in the dynamic world of art to inspire you to continue engaging creativity in your personal and professional lives. I'd first like to introduce the panelists with prepared notes, and then I'll turn it over to them. So Virginia Fretto is the designer and owner of Razimus Jewelry. Virginia is a trained fashion designer who is committed to sustainable production by hand making each fabric band from organic textiles and upcycled vintage clothing. She creates each piece by hand in Boston Spa, New York. Hi, Virginia.
Hi.
Betsy Olmstead is the woman behind her namesake brand, known for its lighthearted textile designs and cheerful color. Betsy has always adored animals and possessed an intrinsic fascination with the natural world, collecting specimens which have become subjects in her art. Betsy values objects of meaning, art, culture, antiques, and textiles. Betsy's love of creatures and flora, hues and patterns, artistic expression, and material culture form the foundation for her company. Fahari Wambura, originally from Tanzania and now living in Chatham, New York, Fahari is the owner and creative designer of Fahari Bazaar, a one-stop marketplace showcasing beautiful, ethical, handmade products made by highly skilled artisans from Tanzania. With a commitment to sourcing only the highest quality products directly from the people that make them, Fahari Bazaar is creating sustainable opportunities for skilled artisans. So we're going to take a couple minutes now and talk to each of the panelists and learn about their artistic career and their journey to their present success. We're going to start with Virginia. Virginia was one of the first people I met when I moved to Saratoga, and one word to describe Virginia would be kind, genuine, creative. There's more than one, but you get where I'm going. She's great. Virginia, if you would do the pleasure of sharing a little bit about yourself.
Well, thank you so much. Yeah, I'm also a transplant to the Saratoga area by way of Boston, where I went to college, but I grew up in New York. I went to Massachusetts College of Art and Design, where I studied fashion design. And then my first career out of college, I actually worked for a fine jewelry company. So when we moved, my husband and I moved upstate to where we are now in Saratoga, I kind of melded the two together, fashion design with jewelry design, and I design all fabric jewelry now. And I feel like throughout there's been many iterations of my business. I've done everything from wholesale to one-of-a-kinds to custom designs. And along the way have met so many amazing people. And I think collaborations are probably one of the most exciting parts my journey. And that's how I met Betsy Olmstead. I use a lot of her fabrics in the designs that I make. I recycle her remnant pieces or like cast off kind of pieces so that there's no waste. And that was probably one of my like kickstarting points for starting my business. It was a keystone of where I started. Was I wanted to be recycling fabrics. I wanted to be reusing them in a way, because the fashion industry has so much fabric waste and textile waste. And so this was a small way that I could contribute to being more eco-conscious.
Thank you, Virginia. I have many of your bracelets, as you know. So Betsy, we're going to move on to Betsy Olmstead. I've had the pleasure of getting to know Betsy over the years, and she's exactly what you would expect. Her bright, bold, colorful designs are representative of her personality. Betsy, would you mind sharing a bit about yourself with the audience?
Oh, hi. Thanks, Yvonne.
Yeah.
So I have been living in Saratoga in upstate New York for about 5 years. I'm from Pennsylvania, but my husband and I both went to Skidmore, so we're sort of back in the area. And I was an art major in college. I started doing ceramics in high school and drawing and painting, and knew I wanted to be in the arts. So I went to Skidmore and studied fiber arts and ceramics. And then a few years later, ended up going to graduate school for textile design. And one of the reasons I chose that path as opposed to getting my master's in fine art was it was more skill-based and more applicable and more industry job driven. So when I was in graduate school for textiles is when I really started painting the way I paint now. I hadn't really watercolored or created artwork this way. So I started designing with watercolors and gouaches and inks specifically because I love the way it looks when it's reproduced on fabrics. So then after graduate school, I worked a little bit at a wall covering company, but just because of personal reasons and small children, I started doing my own thing. It kind of started as a hobby and developed into a full-time business. So I create designs for fabrics by hand painting them and scanning them, and then doing layouts in Photoshop. And then I have a whole product line that I retail online and I wholesale. I also have print to order fabrics and wallpapers for interior designers. And I also license my work. So licensing is when another like large company pays the artist royalties to print their artwork on their product. So that's just another way to get your designs out there. And it's been pretty fun to license. And then last year I ended up opening a little boutique in Saratoga. Yeah. So that's sort of many facets to make one business story.
Yeah, it's great. And Saratoga Marketplace is Betsy's store. If you're in Saratoga or the surrounding areas, you should check it out. And we're going to move on to Fahari now. Unfortunately, I've yet to meet Fahari in person aside from these Zoom calls. But I'm very much looking forward to learning more about you and your work. And I'm definitely going to plan a visit to the store in Chatham this summer. So Fahari, would you mind shedding some light on yourself and your work and your passion?
So I moved to the US in 2011, but moved to New York City. And then in 2014, in the fall of 2014, we moved to Ghent, New York, which was closer to where my kids go to school. And at that point, I did not really, I just moved to this country. I had been writing for a newspaper back in my home country. So I found myself in a position where I didn't have a job. And most of the options that were available in Chatham or Ghent or near where we lived were not really things that I was passionate about. And I'm always the kind of person that believes that if I'm doing something, it has to come from deep in my heart. So I didn't want to go into something that would help me survive at that particular time, but go into something that I knew that I really cared about. So I decided to start sewing, not by any planned action, but by accident. I had been given a sewing machine by my husband for my birthday in 2014. And it happened that my mother-in-law also sent me a sewing machine. And they didn't know, my husband didn't know, and my mother-in-law didn't know that either one of them had gotten me that present. And so I took it as a sign that it meant something, because I've always loved fabric. I grew up going to the tailor and picking up a design and having a dress made. And something that something about being at the tailor's workshop that really, I don't know how to explain it, but when I'm around tailors, there's just something special that I feel. So I've always wanted to do something, but I didn't really have a clear picture of what that was. And the sewing machines kind of opened up my mind to start thinking about what it is that I wanted to do. And I knew that I wanted to sew, but I didn't know how to sew. But I did have the sewing machines. So what I did is I started watching. One day I woke up and sat my husband down. I remember it was in the morning, and I was like, okay, give me a year to try this out. Like, I want to teach myself how to sew, and then this is what I'm going to make, tote bags. It's the only reason why I picked tote bags is because I thought it was something easy to start with. So when he said, okay, I'm going to give you the time, and the time meant for him to be patient with me and to be available if it was necessary for him to be there for our young children. So he agreed to it, but said, okay, at the end of 1 year, if this is not working out, then we have to think about a different option. So that day I made maybe 5 tote bags from watching, I think it was a 30-minute YouTube video. And then from the first day, knowing that I could watch a 15-minute video and be able to make something, I felt like this was something that I could do. I just needed to start doing it. So I started from making tote bags and then being open. Like I didn't have a plan that this is how my business is going to look like, but I allowed myself to grow and to explore my potential as time went by. So in starting a business with not knowing where I was going, helped me see and also realize what it is that I hadn't explored, and I wouldn't have explored it if I hadn't started doing it. So I guess it just grew from making tote bags and then teaching myself how to make clothing and how to, the cutting was always the hard part, but I do it. My cuts are very simple. And the reason why I also like to keep the cuts simple is because for me, my first love is the fabrics. Like, I love fabrics. And I feel like the cuts, the design is just a vessel to kind of carry the fabric, to showcase it, Like, if there's no, if I can just have a piece of fabric, and I always think, what's the best way to showcase this fabric? So that's how my design comes about. So I think about something that's going to carry the fabric, like a vessel. So you're seeing a design, but the thing that is most striking is really the fabric and the design on the fabric.
Well, that's great. That brings me into my next question, which is, where do you find your inspiration from? And I think you just, you stated where you found your inspiration from. And I didn't know if Betsy or Virginia wanted to shed some light on where, how they get inspired.
I think that I'm right there with Fahari about the fabric always inspires me. I do a lot of custom designs now where people will send me like a piece of their grandmother's wedding dress, or somebody in the family maybe who has passed away, like a shirt to make a memorial piece. And there's something about like even just seeing the picture of the garment that I know like instantly what I want to design with it.
Yes.
And so it's definitely like there's so many stories in fabric. I feel like they're kind of like these kind of living things in a way. Like they look one way when they're in, cut a certain way. And then if they're cut a different way, they're completely different.
Yes.
So I'm very much inspired by the fabric as well.
That's great. Yeah. And Betsy?
Well, just to touch on what these two are saying. So for me, if I'm doing a certain product, I will manipulate the print on the fabric to fit on that product and have it printed for it. So, unless it's printed yardage, then trying to figure out how to use that printed yardage, which is what these ladies are talking about. I sometimes wonder, how's my fabric going to be used? Especially the licensed fabrics, because at that point I have no control over how anyone's going to cut it or use it. But for me, I'll be able to take the same design and put it on a pillow and then change the layout and put it on a tea towel and then change the layout. So everything's sort of centered where I want it to be, which is nice. But in terms of the inspiration I'm finding for what I'm creating, some of it's personal, some of it's really from what I observe and see in nature. Some of it is driven by color trends that I'm reading about or learning about just from media. So, when I'm picking up the pen or the paper and what is it called? The brush and the paint.
Yeah.
I usually have some kind of plan of what I'm going to be creating based on whatever thing is inspiring me. So, this past spring, we just launched a whole bunch of a big mushroom collection.
Yay.
And that was inspired by a walk in the Adirondacks that happened to be a path full of all these crazy mushrooms. So sometimes it's that simple.
Yeah, that's great. So you made a good point, Betsy, in terms of trends. I know I know Betsy's work well, Virginia's work well, and Fahari, I've looked at some of your designs online, and it looks like, none of you, I should say, really look like you follow trends very, tightly or closely, if that's the correct word. So, you kind of have your own style, and how much do you really look at current trends? Because, you probably don't want to fall into that too trendy box.
Yes, for me, I've never really followed any trends. I feel like for me to fully express myself, I have to do something that comes from me. How do I express myself? If I were, I believe if I were to follow what someone else is doing, then it's not my creative idea. I'm just doing something because someone else is doing it. And the way I want my business to be, I always say that I cannot separate myself and who I am from the business. I can't say this is the business and this is Fahari. So the business carries my values, who am I and what do I stand for? And sticking to that gives me the freedom and independence to express myself. So I'm not constrained in any way that, because if I start by following trends, then I'll be kind of in that box where I had to do it that way. But doing it my way has created an environment where I can fully express myself without caring much about what's going on around me, but what I feel and love and want to share with others.
That's great.
I feel like when I do the dance between being trendy and kind of trying to have timeless pieces.
Yeah.
When I was more selling to wholesale, which I don't do anymore, to retail stores, I was definitely following what color trends there were, what fabric different textures there were. I was catering it to different stores and their merchandise. So that was definitely, I was very I was very tuned into what the fashion trends were. And then now my business is kind of more of a made to order custom design realm. And so it really is more of this kind of, evergreen classic kind of design that can, it can go or complement basically any trend now too. But I do there's some times where I just feel inspired buy like a certain fabric, or if I saw like a certain trend, like with the tie-dye kind of thing, I'm like, oh, I want to do something with that. Like I'll play around with it and kind of ask my client base, I'm like, what do you think of this? And get some feedback there. So it's nice to be able to have that flexibility in owning your own business to kind of test things out and see what works and see what doesn't work.
For sure, yes.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's the thing about the trends. For me, it's always good to know what other people are doing, you know, within my peers. One, so I can be different than what they're doing, but also because I know that the stores who are buying this brand and that brand, if they're going to be curating everybody in one place, it's nice for them to have some sort of color palette. You know, not that I fully follow it, but if like desert colors are in, I might do a few pieces that are of a similar color palette. Might be attract a certain clientele or customer, but it is also so you know your stuff is different enough than what is out there. I mean, llamas, in the world of animal trends, llamas have been in for so long, and I'm so tired of seeing llamas, and I'm like not doing llamas because I can't look at llamas anymore. So so
we have no llama lovers on this stuff.
I mean, I like llamas, but it's like how many llama products can be on the market?
I feel
so.
Yeah. It's a saturated market, and you got to kind of pick and choose. Yeah,
it is. So it's like maybe there's something similar to a llama that's not a llama that could still work.
Maybe.
So, you know, there's all different ways of researching trends and trying to figure out how they work into what you're doing or not work into what you're doing.
It's very true. It's very true.
Yeah.
Fahari, I'll point this question towards you. What are some surprises that you've experienced or roadblocks during your journey on your journey to this career path?
The thing that I always kind of reflect about is how when you're starting out, like a lot of people are discouraging. And then the only time people want to kind of, oh, now we want to work with you is when they've seen what you have done. And I feel like it's important to, like when someone comes to me, maybe it's just the kind of person that I am. If someone comes to me and they have a dream and they want to do something, like my initial knee-jerk reaction is never that like, no, you can't do that, what about this? Because I believe when someone decides to do something, they've put a lot of thought into it. You know, I don't think it's just when people have these ideas about what they want to do with their lives, I don't think it's just something that someone wakes up one morning and decides this is what I want to do. So I go with trusting that that person can actually do something. So the surprising part is the rejection when you're starting out, and mostly nobody believing in what you're doing. And I feel like even if like you don't believe in what someone else is doing, it's okay to encourage people, because you don't know, like you cannot fully understand what this person is trying to do. And then after they've done it, even the same people that said, oh, you couldn't do it or you can't do it, then they want to work with you. You know, we don't always have to, it's okay to work with someone through the difficult process than waiting until now it's easy, it's all been figured out, and that's when you want to insert yourself into it. You know, we can lift each other up even before we get on to the top of the mountain. You know, it doesn't always have to be like when you're on the top of the mountain, that's when people are interested. What about, you know, walking with you in, it doesn't have to be in a big way, it could just be even just encouragement. Yeah. So that's the surprising part, like how people reject when you're starting out, and then when they see that you figured something out, then they want to come on board.
Now, what are some things you would do to maybe cope with that rejection?
For me, I've always had a very how, I don't know how to put it in English. Like I believe in myself. Like I try to be as honest I can be with myself. So if it's something that I let's say I know I'm persistent, I'm strong, I'm kind. If someone tells me I'm not kind and I know that I am kind, I just don't believe them. You know, that is what I do. Like if I believe in something and someone is trying to tell me otherwise, I go with my own instinct, because I feel like it's important to take time to know who you are. So if someone tells you something different from what you know yourself, as like, this is who I am, and someone is telling me something different, I just don't believe it. And I feel like that's the thing that has gotten me to where I am, because if I'd listened to the rejection and the discouragement, I would have never done anything, you know. And I'm the one, like, as an individual, nobody else can see your dream. You see it very clearly, but if no matter how hard you try to explain it to someone, they cannot see the way you see it. So it's important to have that strong will to do something and to believe in it and to keep going, even if people are telling you no. Just believe in yourself, and also be honest with yourself, you know, so you know what not to believe and what to believe.
That's great. Yeah, that's good advice. Betsy, I'll direct the question towards you. Any surprises during this journey, your career path, like good, bad?
First, I just want to say everything that Fahari just said was just so true.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, for me too, with the facing rejection has been, especially when you're starting out, the most difficult part. But it's true, you just have to persevere through it and prove that you can do it, because when you say it, it doesn't always, right? No, maybe you might not be believed. You have to prove that you can do it. So yeah, rejection is hard. And then I also sometimes tell myself, well, that wasn't the right fit for me, or that person wasn't the right person for me to be working with. So, but what was your question again? My biggest surprise?
Yeah, surprise in your journey and this career path. It could be, you know, really a positive, negative. It could be, you know.
That's a tough question, because for me, it's been so slow and so gradual and just sort of organic that the surprises have been little things along the road, like, oh, I need to learn how to make spreadsheets, you know, things that maybe someone starting out as an artist or creative person has to learn to make it work as a business. So those things are surprising. But I do find that this is a difficult question.
That's fine. That's fine. That was a great answer, though, for a difficult question. No one said this was going to be easy, Betsy. Okay. Virginia, do you want to touch on anything in regards to some roadblocks or some, you know, positive, negative surprises, things that happen on your journey in this career path?
Yeah, I think the things that stand out to me are, one, like valuing and valuation of what you're creating and how you're going to price it and how much work goes into it. I know a lot of creatives struggle with that. And a lot of times we're kind of like really trying to make ends meet. So you feel funny trying to sell your item for like something that you wouldn't be able to afford. So it's this funny dance when you're first starting to figure out what your price range is going to be in your marketplace. And you'll make some mistakes along the way, and you can always change them, even though it feels like I've got to redo everything. Like I have to redo my line sheets. I have to redo like how I reach out to people, all this stuff, because I'm doing like a price increase. I have to communicate it. Just don't be scared to value yourself and your work for what it actually is worth. Like don't undercut yourself, because you'll end up working all crazy hours and then not be able to pay yourself. So that was probably like one of the biggest things in the beginning, is to try to figure out how to value it and to find the right fit, like Betsy was saying too, like the right clients, the right customer, the right way of communicating it. And it wasn't really until, for me, like probably the hardest thing was really making a true connection with my clients. And I did that through, you know, live artist sales, like or artist like shows and stuff like that, where I could actually interface with the clients. where I didn't feel like I was designing in a bubble and like hoping the world would like it, like to actually go out and talk to customers and see what they liked. And then connecting on an emotional level with custom designing, that like changed everything in my entire, like my inspiration, my motivation. I just feel like it was that piece that like I was looking for to try to figure out like, how do I connect being eco-friendly and a jewelry designer with something more meaningful? And when I found that, I feel like I found like my true voice within my brand and like how I wanted to portray myself on social media, because I was trying to make everything seem so like perfectly branded on all the social media stuff. And now it's just like, I just share what's going on. You know, I think being yourself and being authentic and finding true connection with your client base, it will open up so much inspiration and get you over all those hurdles when you're second guessing yourself. It's like, no, this worked. Remember, I can do this.
Yeah. I was gonna come back after listening to Virginia, but I wanted to say one of the biggest challenges and surprises for me was social media, because you know, social media became a thing after the business had already been going.
Yeah.
And the amount of time it took me to understand what a hashtag was and go into social media, like very nervous and scared and having anxiety, and how horrible it made me feel, and trying to understand my brand in the context of social media, to now really devaluing social media. And just it's a constant struggle. I mean, it's really easy to use social media from a business point of view and see what other people are doing and think, oh God, they really are doing it so much better than me, or their photography is so much better, or you know, I felt really badly about myself for a while with the social media, and then learned that it's just that social media, it's just there to like make us like all feel so that's been something where it's just not worth to put. I mean, in certain ways it's important to have sort of some kind of journalistic imagery for clients and customers to look at, but to put yourself in a place where you worry about your brand's dependency on followers is an unhealthy place for you to be as a business owner.
Yes.
As someone who's so connected with their work and so connected with their brand, it's just, they just have to be careful with how social media makes you, motivate you or not.
Yeah. It's very true. And I feel like as creatives, as people in general, probably, but as creatives, we tend to be our own worst critic. So what, or at least I'm like that. I don't know about you guys, but how do you like cope with that when you're coming up with a new design or making a new tote bag or working on a new piece of jewelry? You know, if you're feeling uninspired or you feel like you do it and you're not loving it, like how do you look for outside help? Do you talk to your family, your friends? Do you like throw out ideas and get feedback? Anyone can answer. Betsy, you can go ahead.
I usually do ask for feedback with my friends and people who I trust. And sometimes it's silly stuff like, should this hedgehog be centered or to the left? Or should I replace the hedgehog with a toad? Or does this color look good? You know, I do bounce ideas like that. But if I end up with a product that I don't feel connected to, I just sort of end up maybe retiring it and moving on to something else. For sustainability. You know, if I get tired of what I'm doing, what I'm looking at, I don't feel connected to that piece. It's just makes me unsustainable as a designer. So it's sort of important to keep pushing new things. And, you know, I get tired of seeing the same design. It's like by the time when I paint it, it's one thing, but by the time it's been in production for 3 years, I'm just sort of like, have a hard time looking at it. So it's always good to get an objective point of view for something when, you know, you have a different relationship to that piece than others may have.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Fahari, do you want to touch on that or?
I think for me, my saving grace, like I don't have a lot of different designs. I have like I would just say three basic designs that I just play around with, which is just maybe changing the sleeve or changing the length. And I usually make sure that I have a very small batch of a particular print. So it keeps it interesting. I love fabric. I love shopping for fabric. So, and I also get bored. Like when I see something over and over, I just get bored by it. Or if I do the same thing over and over, I get bored by it. So the way that I have solved the problem is if I'm into fabric, really into fabric, and I get a small batch of it made, and then that's it. Like he makes a few pieces and then move on to the next, and it just keeps it interesting because I'm constantly working with the women that are making the batiki, and it's interesting to look at. I always fall in love with something, and then it makes it easy for me to have many more options and to keep kind of feeding into that beast, which is fabric loving, that I can love a fabric today and I have 5 pieces, and then tomorrow I can get 10 pieces of this, and not being stuck with 100 pieces of the same fabric. So it's constantly changing. Like even within a month, I can have a lot of different fabric designs, that's the thing that keeps it interesting. But also I get feedback from customers. I might think, oh, this fabric will look really great on this dress. And a customer will be like, oh, I love a pair of pants in that same fabric. And then I see it in a different way. So feedback from sometimes family, from friends, and also my customers, but also keeping it interesting by just having a very, very small batch of it. So I don't have to look at the same color or the same design for a long time. So sometimes as soon as it comes, it goes, and I'm happy with that, to let go and not be tempted to like, oh, I love this so much, I want it made again. I'm just like, I love it, and just there's only 5 pieces of it, and that's okay, and I let it go and move on to the next thing.
I like that. That's good. Yeah. I'm going to shift questions. I'm going to go to Virginia with this one and chat a little bit about what it was like to be 16 again. And what is some advice, if you could go back and give your 16-year-old self in regards to this career path?
Oh boy. I changed my mind a lot when I was 16.
I know,
so.
right?
Well, I actually, when I was 16, my real focus in like the world of art was a lot of like drawing and painting. So not textiles at all, which is interesting that that's the way my career has gone. So I think just always stay open to trying new things. Like don't get closed off to, trying a new media, trying a new school, a new major. Like I jumped around to a lot of things until I found what really fit for me. And then I would say too, like if you know in your heart, like I think probably by that time I knew like I wanted to own my own business, even though it took me quite some time to work for other people to realize that yes, I definitely want to own my own business. But it's good to get like a diverse mix of experiences. Like if you pigeonhole yourself into one thing and only do that for so long, you really don't get like this broader view of things. So like a lot of my experiences, I learned how to run a business by working on the business side of things. And I do wish I could go back and have taken more like entrepreneurial business classes along with the creative stuff, because you can't have one without the other. But you can work with people who can help you with the other pieces that might be like where you kind of fall short or that brings you no joy. But yeah, I would say like, don't be afraid to try new things and to make mistakes and to try to get like a broader picture of things before you like really hone in on what you like, because you might be surprised that it's a completely different media than you originally started with.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. Yeah. And touching on the business side is good. I wanted one of you to touch on the business side because you're all creatives, you're all women-owned businesses, but there's a business side aspect to your business. So there's more that goes into it than just developing and creating said product.
Yeah. And like I was more after the fact, after I had started my business, found a course that I could take that taught me how to do some of the like jewelry specific business things. So and that was super helpful. But I kind of wish I knew a little bit more when I graduated from college about like spreadsheets and all that fun stuff. And you know what an income sheet looks like and a line sheet and all of that stuff. So yeah, just the kind of the nuts and bolts of running a business would have that I if you get an opportunity to take even just an intro to business class, take it.
Yeah, Betsy, did you do anything on the business side in terms of schooling and or you know, post school, like what Virginia's talking about?
Well, I would say in about the 6th year of running my business and trying to figure out everything on my own, I started working with a business consultant advisor. She's out of Brooklyn. She does advisorship for creative entrepreneurs.
Oh, nice.
And I was at a point where I didn't know what to do. Like I'd gotten to a point and then it was like, I felt like some things were out of control and I didn't know how to get a grasp on it. So she really got me in tune with things like the spreadsheets and the accounting of all the inventory and QuickBooks and getting a great bookkeeper and getting all of the insurance figured out. And it really helped me push everything to the next level with the financial planning and the production plan and the social media plan and everything done in a different way. Like I was just sort of going by the fly. Is that how you'd say it?
Yeah.
And she really got me going in this other way. And it was really helpful. I mean, I made it pretty far before I got real professional help because no, I never took a business class and I fudged it. That's what I was doing. I was fudging it until the fudging wasn't working anymore. And so I've been able to push, now I've been able to have the store and like hire some employees and do everything correctly and buy the books because I've had this person help me.
Yeah.
So it's having some kind of understanding of Google spreadsheets is really important.
Yes. Okay, Fahari, I'm gonna go into another question in regards to resources. If there are people watching this this panel and they're interested in getting into a creative field, like one of you guys are in, would you have any resources or what would you recommend in terms of how you could direct them?
Like for me, I feel like if it's just the way it works for me, it's easier when you're doing something to kind of find people that are doing something that's similar so that you can learn firsthand from someone. Like you could go online, like I'm not good with going online, but some people would go online. But I feel like when you surround yourself with people that are doing something similar, it's easy to ask questions and someone tells you from like an experienced, from experience, something that maybe they did and it didn't go right and what the solution was. Like learn from, how do I say it? It's hard to speak English sometimes. Like learn from people that are doing the things that you're interested in. Yeah. Like befriend those people. Does someone own a small business? And you befriend them and then talk to them about your challenges and what challenges they have. And I feel like in those conversations, it's easy to find solutions. And I feel like that's how I deal with problems. Like I talk to friends that have businesses or similar businesses, and I find that maybe they're going through the same challenges and they've overcome, and how they overcame, they share that, and I share my own, perspective, and then I find solutions.
So that brings up a good point for Hari. Are there, this can be open to all three of you, Are there certain chat groups, social networks that you look to discuss things that fall into your creative field, or, just entrepreneurial or business questions? Do you guys have certain outlets that you use?
I feel like the chambers are like the CDs, the Columbia Development Economic. I don't know what the last C stands for. Like the CDDC and the chamber, like they usually have these classes, and they also have resources. For example, if you need an accountant to come sit with you and look through your books and help you how to do QuickBooks, they do have resources like that. And they usually have business classes that you can go to the chamber, and you sign up and you pay a small fee, and you can go to those classes as well.
Great. Virginia, do you have any that you'd like to share?
I would say definitely like networking is a good inspiration. I know me too, a lot of creatives were kind of more introverted and don't always love going out and putting ourselves out there. But even people who aren't even in your industry, we all kind of will hit like the same roadblocks, or somebody might know somebody who has tried doing something this way, and then you can talk to that person. I think just like being open to meeting other people, and a lot of artist markets, you're there for like a whole weekend or a couple weekends in a row, and you end up meeting other creatives and forming relationships with them. And I remember in college too, like a lot of professors had careers outside of teaching, and I would talk with a lot of them, and I actually interned with a couple of them, and or had them like kind of review ideas I had outside of school stuff. So it was just always being able to kind of ask questions and not being afraid to ask questions, introduce what you're doing or what your idea is, and like listen for the feedback. And then once you find those groups, you'll find like Facebook groups that different people are part of. Or like in the case of the course I took, like there's a whole Facebook group for that, and they're helpful to a certain degree to stay connected. But there's nothing that beats like face-to-face. And this year has obviously been a challenge with trying to do more face-to-face things, but it's definitely like the way that you can actually get some real feedback and get some like to really meet and collaborate with other people.
Great. Thank you, Virginia. Betsy, anything you want to share?
For me, it's definitely more of a personal networking, not necessarily through an organized system. A lot of my networking has happened from doing trade shows and meeting other business owners and staying in touch, or just if have a question or trying to figure something out, asking someone else who's in the same field what their experience has been. And that's been great. And like I also am part of a licensing group of just women who decided to start like some kind of text or email chain. Like, so if any of us have any questions about licensing or the companies we're working with and what's been going on, we can support one another. Doesn't mean we even know each other very well. It's just, we've all met through these things like Quilt Market or Shop Object or New York Now, or where we're all exhibiting. So those have been really helpful networks and connections for me, trying to figure it out. And then also the newsletter I get from my business advisor, that's helpful. I read that, like, I think it's every other week.
Nice. Okay, well, we are going to take some questions now. So I'm not going to be asking I'll be asking them, but they're not coming from me. So this one's for Betsy. This is from Chelsea Silver. She said, that's so refreshing to hear, social media. What's your preferred method to connect with your customers?
Hi, Chelsea. So I still do use social media, and I'm still using Instagram. I think for me, I've had an attitude adjustment about it, where I've started to really understand how the algorithm works and how the whole system works. where I can see not everyone's seeing the posts, or I don't need to put that much pressure on myself. You know, when I was taught you got to post every day or every other day, and I was like really anxious and worrying about it all the time. I've gotten to a point now where I'm like, well, if I post every other week, whatever, you know, it's just, it's an attitude adjustment, just that makes me feel better. But the other way that I find is really effective to communicate with customers is the newsletter. And I find that if I'm not blasting them with newsletters constantly, and every once in a while send one out and make sure that that one is special, you know, maybe it's offering something, or maybe it's something new that's going on, or new products that we have, that's also a really great way to communicate with customers without worrying about like, oh, how many likes did I get or anything like that. But I guess that's some supplementing the social media. And I just feel like literally it's a feeling where I've trained myself to be less sensitive to social media with my business.
Well, cheers to that.
Thank you.
So some other questions. You guys, you all wear many hats, and how would you say that you manage your work-life balance? We can start go to Virginia on this one.
Okay, I kind of giggled when you said, how do you balance it? Because there really isn't balance.
I know, it's like the worst.
Well, now I've added to my my repertoire that I'm a homeschool mom and will be for the foreseeable future. So my schedule is not what it used to be. But I mean, I think that you get into rhythms and they change, like sometimes from day to day, week to week, month to month. But you kind of know yourself, like it takes some trial and error. I used to do a lot of my work in the evenings, and now I'm too tired to do that. So I find that like I have to find these other chunks of time during the day to kind of get into that creative flow. Because for me, that was like the most frustrating part, was I just start to get like stuff going and like making a bunch of things and getting all these ideas, and I'd have to stop for one reason or another. And that's really hard when you're in that, like, you're in that flow and you want to keep going. So finding those times and blocking those times is like the key to sanity, I would say. I don't know if it's balance, but the key to sanity with it all. But I also am just, I do love like anything creative. So like the homeschool piece works for us too. But yeah, it's an interesting question because I have not found particular balance, but maybe more of a rhythm.
Rhythms are great.
Yeah.
Fahari, are there any specific artists, past or present, who have inspired you?
I feel like my creativity is mostly inspired by my childhood memories. Like I'm always just constantly going back. That's where my inspiration is. Things, and it's not like big things or big people or big artists. It's just things that I saw in terms of clothing, it's cuts that I saw my mother's wear, my grandmother wear, my aunts, my sisters, things that I see on the street in Dar es Salaam. So it's never big. It's very small details that I see walking on the street or at a market, or a memory that inspires my work. And sometimes I feel like my work is also honoring my past, you know, like I kind of am telling a story about where I'm from and my family and people that I love through what I do every day. So that's where my inspiration comes from.
I like that. That's great. Thank you for sharing that. Betsy, what are some changes or trends that you see coming to the textile industry in the immediate future?
Well, one of the biggest changes that's happening right now is digital printing, which is hopefully going to be able to bring more textile printing to the States and have some more domestic printing and manufacturing. So
can I interrupt you quick? You're domestic, right? You're all in.
Well, India and and USA.
Okay, so you are Indian USA. Okay.
So it's a combination, but you know, most of the mills, there are still a few textile printing mills here that do screen print. Most have moved overseas. But the thing is with the screen printing, it requires very large minimums and a lot of yardage to be printed at one time. And there's a lot more dye waste. And so digital printing, although it's more expensive, you can print 1 yard. I mean, you can print very small runs and there's like not the waste, the dye waste is very minimal. So I think it reproduces millions of colors. It just makes it really, it's really great for small scale companies like me because of the low minimums that I can print.
Yeah.
And also with the environmental standards and wastewater, digital is, it's moving in that direction. So that's the biggest trend. I mean,
Interesting.
right now, yeah, they're printing more over here. The cut and sew is still something that happens more overseas. Like if you want to do something print, cut, sew, there's not really a good one-stop shop here. Like with my pillows, they're printed in North Carolina, then they go to a sewing factory in Pennsylvania, then they come here and I have to source every little detail. But if it's coming from India, they print, cut, sew, package, and ship it all at once. So, but the digital print is, I think, and going to end up being the future for a lot of textile printing.
That's good to know. Thank you for sharing that, Betsy. So I'm going to pose one more question. I'll pose it to Virginia. In what way is working with and sharing fabric creations a healing art? And has this changed over the last year?
Yes, to all of it. Specific to what I do a lot of memorial pieces. So there is absolute comfort that I know I'm providing a client and myself. I've made it for loved ones, like from clothing from loved ones that we've lost in our family. And there's something about honoring that person, or even if it's not a memorial piece, like honoring a memory. So if you had something from like your honeymoon or your first baby coming home, like you can wear that with you and it's closer to your heart, you know? So there's something really emotional about that. And for me, when I'm designing it, it's almost like I'm just in this very peaceful state when I'm designing it, because I know that I'm like, I can almost put myself in the client's shoes. Like I know where I'm, like I know their story of why I'm, you know, making it for them. And I think that this year especially, it's helped me feel connected to people, even though we're so disconnected right now. Because even if I haven't met the client face to face, we've had an exchange of messages or emails, kind of describing the story and, you know, selecting the fabric and the design. And then I can show them what I've been working on. We can make changes. So it's like this very, we're in good communication with each other. So I feel connected to that person or family that I'm designing for. So for me, that's where I feel that healing connection.
Thank you. Thank you, Virginia. So it's time to bring tonight's studio chat to a close. We're so grateful to each of our panelists for donating their time, Betsy, Virginia, and Fahari. To make the high school juried show, exhibition, and programming possible, and for joining us tonight. We hope to see you at the same time for next week's installment featuring Courtney Gussick and Yana Hammond. In the meantime, please connect with the Hyde on social media to stay in the loop on the exciting exhibitions and programs we'll be offering throughout the 2021 season and beyond. Last but not least, after the webinar, you'll be receiving a 3-question survey. We would love for you to take the survey. It helps us with our future programs. And thank you again, and we hope to see you all again soon. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Bye, guys. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thanks, Yvonne.